This is Oldecam.
And this is not a spring chicken today. We're going to be talking about...
It's not about how much smaller I am than she is, because I actually stand about 2 foot further back, which makes you smaller. See, she gets smaller as she comes back, so. But, okay, but we're going to be talking about the demise of... actually, we're going to be talking about the demise of broadcasting from the right in the United States.
Now, part of it is, the reason why we're talking about all of this is because Rupert Murdoch has been in the news for, what, the last week?
Yeah, a couple of weeks now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, has it been that long?
Yeah, 2 weeks. Yep.
Okay, and he's been in the news because of the scandal, the phone hacking scandal there in Britain.
Yeah, and what happens is it's not, okay, it's basically a wiener type problem, folks. You don't, if you're the chief of police in London, you're the head police commissioner, you don't resign if somebody's hacking things.
I know, I don't understand. It's like, what did they resign for? 2 of them!
Here's the key thing today. If you get caught giving information out, you obviously were hacked. They hacked into this. No, basically what happens is scandal publications since when I was young, we had people like Llewellyn Parsons and Walter Winchell and Confidential magazine and things like that, which were horrible scandal publications. They basically, you know, they said that where they got the idea that members of the press crawled out from underneath rocks like ages. That's how bad it was. The News of the World was, as we heard in there a few minutes ago, because she was busy getting, you know, actually she was getting her hair ready because she's got to go do that work this week. She's got to go meet Captain America and maybe Harrison Ford. Yeah, so Daniel Craig I don't care that much about. Actually, if Rachel Weisz shows up, she's nice. But she's, I was listening to this stuff, and what happened was the News of the World was the publication was once the most prominent publication over there in Europe. But like all news publications, it's a hard paper thing. Here it was, and as circulation kept going like that, and the woman said that the people running the publication were worried about losing their jobs because if the publication goes, you fire the people at the top. So she said,
and part of it is the entire industry, as far as the newspaper industry, has been having a challenge.
It's in contrition because the problem, a lot of it is that union salaries have basically destroyed things. I mean, you have to have people setting that we no longer have printers devils in virtually any publication anymore because it's all done by computers. I mean, you don't have typesetters, it's done by computers, but union rules in a lot of areas require that these people that haven't been used in 30 years are kept busy. You know, so, I mean, that's how it works. I mean, we had, you know, like, most people don't understand that Mark Twain was actually the developer of the linotype machine.
What's the linotype?
Basically, you sit there, you have all of these things, you know, whole bulk containers full of letters, and you sit there and type them in, and it would pick up the letters and put into the thing, and you do it like that. And then when it was all done, you know, you have these little forms that it'd make. Because of the fact that you didn't want to put them all back by hand, you'd put them in a pot. They were melted down, and brand new letters and stuff were formed. You know, so you had a person who was in charge of the typing, a person in charge of the melting, and a person in charge of putting the stuff back in the deals. You know, because then they're all, you know, like you have A's, you have nothing but A's created, and B's and so forth. But those people are still being hired because unions are that strong in the print industry. And it destroyed that. You know, there's only so much money you can charge in advertising. It's all based upon how many people watch your magazine.
Well, even if you, I mean, I know in the LA Times, if you look at the paper, it has shrunk. Yeah. Not only it's not as thick, but also the actual dimensions of it have shrunk.
But so does tabloid size right now. Because they no longer have, okay, what happens is we do internet news, and we do, okay, this is the stuff we do here, but if you go look at some of the stuff we're starting to do now for other things, we're not in swimsuits, folks. We are regular news people doing news items. We do.
Well, yeah, we do both.
But we do both. But still, we've tried time and time again to tell people we're spread out over like 11 different areas, and I'm only on screen when we're in swimsuits and stuff. I have Oldecam, which has basically been the base backbone of the whole thing, which is commentary on the headlines of the day. But a good 60 to 70% of what we do is the hardcore news things. It's interviews, it's interviews, it's interviews. I mean, like, she's got 40-some interviews that hasn't got up yet, and she's going to do that many more a day probably at the Comic-Con and doing magic. But hardcore news has changed because you can go to the internet and pick up your stuff faster than you can get to it. I mean, we also write for Yahoo, and you know, but so that you can't. The advertiser base is eroded totally, and as the woman said in there, she said they were afraid for their jobs, so they bent the rules, and they said bet. There's a difference, you know, because there's very little hacking that went on, and mostly just buying information. But she said,
see, part of it is they buy information here all the time.
Yeah, they're paying. You
know that.
Yeah, they do.
I mean,
the major networks. They know that they're getting ready to pay Casey Anthony $1 million, you know, to talk about about what went on. You know?
Yeah, how do you think some people get an exclusive to talk with people?
They buy it. It's just. How you get featured in publications is you buy the space. Look at the back pages of your Sunday thing. You don't think it's a really brilliant article about this, and then you find out, you know, paid for at the bottom.
Like Jennifer Aniston.
Yeah.
She paid to be on the cover.
She's paid to be on the covers of magazines, but
it was for GQ.
GQ Women of the Year or something. Posing with just wearing a. You know, she won't get naked in a movie, but she'll wear a tie on a men's magazine cover, which I thought was funny. But no, but they said, like it was Rebecca Brooks, she said, you know, the irony of everything about what they did to raise the circulation actually went down while they were doing what they were doing.
Really?
It not only didn't save their jobs, it ended up with the death of the publication and probably the death of Murdoch's News Corp.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you think that'll do? I mean,
oh yeah, they're going to put, you know, they want to put Brooks in jail, and they also want to put James Murdoch in jail, which is his son. And remember, British laws are not the same as American laws, which basically they will jail you over. In England you have freedom of speech if you go to Trafalgar Square and stand on a soapbox.
But otherwise you don't.
You have no freedom of speech. For some reason, they think being on a soapbox is totally different than standing in front of a television camera or writing something.
Which is why when they came to the United States and formed our country, freedom of the speech was such a big deal.
Yeah, because we don't control the news media. Actually, we do, but we don't. It's so,
not the same way.
No, but we go back. I go way back in journalism. I've got like 60 years, 50. I got my degree kind of 50, 55 years ago. That's a long time ago. But they used to be the joke. Freedom of speech belongs to the people that own the presses. And to the victor goes the creation of history. You know, history is written by the victors. Political parties will rewrite history. They said that Murdoch came here because of all of the problems he was having with censorship in England and Australia and New Zealand. So he moves to the United States, where he could be a newsman and actually run news without being. I mean, they have hate speech laws in English, in Canada, England, Australia, New Zealand.
Well, part of it is he came here, and then what? The White House banned Fox.
Okay,
well, okay, maybe not totally banned them.
But they, for all practical purposes, they got rid of them. Okay, here's an example. I've tried to say it. Britt Hume was basically a straight, you know, he's a middle-of-the-road newsman. He's a newsman. This guy is basically, at the moment, protecting his backside because he's close to that age when you're not going to get hired anymore. And what he's doing, I love this. Republicans should have known better. Republicans, if they hadn't been Tea Party people, they'd have known better. They should have known better. They're never going to get it. Don't stand on principle. You should have known better. Which means he's basically bailing out on Fox because he knows Fox is going down the drain. I mean, there's already a criminal investigation. All of the usual suspects, which means the attorney generals of the Democratic attorney generals are going to start investigations of Fox Broadcasting everywhere they're at.
Do you think it had anything to do with Glenn Beck?
Well, no, okay, I've explained it before. Fox has actually supported the election of Barack Obama. You may not believe it, but Rupert Murdoch supported his election. Look at all the people that vanished on Fox News and Fox Business for, vacations, unexpected vacations, when they said something negative about the president. I mean, Bill O'Reilly worships the ground that Barack Obama walks on. You have people over on Fox News that basically, we put it this way, if Obama was to go into a bank, rob every old person in the bank of their money, you have people on Fox News would comment about how brilliantly he pulled off that robbery. No one was hurt during his robbery, and only those fat cat millionaires and billionaires, had money taken from them, and he's going to give it to the poor. Those are the people that populate Fox News. Because what happens is Fox News plays bad cop, good cop. Bill O'Reilly was the good cop for Fox. Glenn Beck was the bad cop. Bill O'Reilly, a man this smart could not possibly be making those mistakes, so it must be the people that he chose around him. And Glenn Beck, we know who was making mistakes. He's the man at the top. He's mean, he's mean-spirited, he's vindictive.